Hello, folks, and welcome to the Internet Business School surgery session with today with myself, Roger Norris from the Internet Business School. Thanks to everyone who's joining us live and people who are catching up on our YouTube channel later on. So that's the Ultimate Business System YouTube channel, where if you like and subscribe, you can catch up with all the videos there in your own time. I think there's 39 videos there at the moment. 38, I think, something like that. Yeah, this is 39 by the time you've seen this. This will be the 39th. Okay, so we're building a big database of training, free training for people to help build their online knowledge, and also to help them build businesses. And we like to hope that at some point, when people have got a business that's building big enough, you'll sign up with our Ultimate Business System software, which was as a combined software package will run your entire business and grow with you for a really good price. I think it's $129 a month plus full support. So it's cheaper than all the other software put together, that's for sure. Okay, but this is to give you confidence and knowledge. Okay, so when you're starting out in business and coming up with an idea, I'm sure you've all done it. Okay, you've had a bright idea and you've popped it into your AI of choice, whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or one of the others, and you've said, how about this for an idea? And AI invariably comes back and says, that's fantastic. You're a genius. That's brilliant. Okay. Is there anyone who put a one in the chat if that's you, if you've had AI just tell you that everything you say tell it is is genius. Yeah, all the ones are appearing. Jay says he is a good genius. That's all right then. You've been AI has backed you up all the way, yeah? Yeah, it's really strange. No matter what you do, AI turns around and says, "Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. You should do that." And it's been a bit of a problem with AI. It's getting better at it. It is getting better at it, that's for sure. But it's been, there's been so many stories in the news over the last sort of year or so about people who've had crazy ideas validated by AI, because they don't know how to push back and to get AI to help qualify those ideas. Okay, so we're going to try and look at to give you some basic strategy to think about when you're trying to qualify ideas. Okay, so just from this sort of opening slide here, um, I could drop into AI that I'm an online educator, and would it be a good idea for me to launch a course? It'll go, yeah, that's great. Well, how about start a membership? Brilliant idea. Build a community. Absolutely. Yes, you should have a chatbot. And yes, you should think about pivoting your business. Okay, but they're all great ideas. But how can they be all true at the same time? And that's where we need to try to use AI better to put all those in order and to find out what we should actually be doing and to push back against AI. Right, so that's the plan. Okay, so yeah, lots of different ideas. I was helping my wife with some business ideas in the week, and she had loads and loads of ideas, and she was putting them all into sort of standard AI and getting back that qualification. That yeah, that's good. We should work with that. We should work with that. We work with that. And she was all up in the air saying, "Well, how can I do all of these at once?" Okay. So I was sort of working with her to show how she could make her decision-making process better. Okay. So yeah, here's the nub of it. Okay. That you don't want AI to tell you that everything is a good idea. It needs to put it in context. Okay. It needs to have evidence that what you're actually going to do and plan to do is worthwhile, what the alternatives are. Okay, that's your one plan, but hang on a minute. What else could we do? What are the risks and the weaknesses around your plan? And bearing in mind all of those, what becomes the best option, especially for return on investment and your time and what and achieving your goals. And if you put all those together, it's going to help you make the correct decision. Does that kind of make sense? Does anyone try to do that with standard AI at the moment when you're working through an idea? Or do we just sort of chuck something in and see what happens? I'd love to get your thoughts on it. Who's been working through ideas on AI, using AI to help them try to come to some sort of plan or understanding of what they should actually be doing? Has anyone managed to overcome this problem themselves naturally? Okay, because it is a very real problem. That is for sure. I just see if anyone has got anything to drop in at this point, because I kind of like your feedback on this of how, because I've heard of people who've been trying to sort of qualify ideas in AI, and they kind of get turned off by it because it's it is just that super enthusiastic stuff, and it gets carried away, and it kind of does a whole big output in one go, rather than generating extra information. Um, Michael says, yeah, he's tried to do it, but not very successful. Nick says, yeah, I have. But what was the question? I challenge some of it, of what it spits out, to get a sanity check. Jay says, I very much tend to chuck ideas at it, but know that the picture it paints is rosy. Yeah. In fact, what I've just teed up, I've done it with ChatGPT and Claude. If we look at it, okay, I've loaded up some of the older models, okay, from last year. Okay, and if I if I give it a little bit of a test, okay, without much context, then let's just see what it comes up with. Sorry, I've got a test one ready to go. Okay, let's just do this one and just see to have a compare of some of these historical models. Okay, so let's just ask it that I'm currently selling an online course and workshops. I'm considering launching a £49 a month membership community. Is this a good idea? Right, so this is in the old O3 model, which back in its time was really good, and was one of the first sort of thinking models. But I remember trying doing all this with the old Geminis. Gemini was really bad at it. That everyone was a genius. Okay? But the old O3 models had a bit more structure to it. Okay, so it's thought for 26 seconds. Okay, so it's asked him whether that £49 stacks up against the market, and it's able to do a little bit of online searchings to be able to get some relevant prices of what people are doing. And it's actually saying that you could be a little bit below average. Okay. Economics and retentions, revenue numbers. Yeah, if you've got 100 members in your online community, that's 5 grand. That's right. Bit of that, bit of fees, churns, when people drop off from your group. It talks about a value stack. It talks about platform costs. Okay. And then it does drop in a little bit of a quick stress test. So depending on your audience size and your attention, your capacity. Okay. So it does give an idea. It can be a strong move if you are delivering high perceived value. Model churn is realistic. Control the platform and processing costs so they stay below 10% and start with a small scale beta. If these are all ticked, it can be really good. Okay. But AI is giving you that answer of this could be really good. Let's go on with this. Okay. But without any real context. It doesn't know what niche you're in. It doesn't know what your courses are about. It doesn't know what your audience size is. It doesn't know what your how many followers you've got on LinkedIn or social media. It doesn't know whether you do things face to face or faceless. It knows nothing about you. So it's just giving you generic ideas, okay, and a generic answer. And we could have got that ourselves. We could have said, yeah, it's, if you're selling online courses and workshops, yeah, it could be a good idea to do this. But I need to know more. I need to go back and challenge all these ideas. Okay. So that was in the O3 model. Okay. But AI has got better and better at dealing with the issue of that's a great idea. Basically because they were getting a really bad rap over it. And essentially, there were so many bad news stories about people who were using AI to do dumb things or silly things or being persuaded by AI to do some really dangerous stuff. People were just sort of listening to their AI chatbot and just doing everything that it said. And there were some very sad stories around that as well, where people had just taken it way too far. Okay. So what we have to do as business people or people who want to use AI to build something, so we have to understand how it works. If we understand how it works, we can understand, what we can change in our behavior to get better results. So AI is really good at generating ideas. It's got lots of information inside it at its disposal, okay, that it can use to give us a really helpful answer. And it can iterate through lots of different ideas. Once it's got all those ideas, it can create the content and it find patterns and summarize. Fantastic. It's really good at doing that. But what it's not naturally good at is doing that reverse challenge and stress test and identifying ways that you could do it better. Okay. And the reason is that bottom bit where it says, because AI is trained to be a useful and helpful assistant. Okay. It's not naturally natively designed in its instructions to say, hang on a minute, that's the worst idea I've heard this week. What are you on? That's crazy. Okay. Because a lot of people might just think, hang on a minute, that's a little bit too harsh. But your language and the way you talk to AI can help trigger some of those and all of those behaviors if you know what to say. Okay. So all is not lost. It's just about knowing the words and phrases and when to drop them in to challenge AI. Okay. Um, So what we kind of want to think about, okay, is not asking right at the beginning whether this is a great idea or not. Okay, we don't want to because that does say it invites that validation by the AI of saying, well, this is a yes no idea. I want to be helpful, therefore, yeah, it's a good idea. Absolutely. Okay. We've got to think about this sort of process. Okay. What's the evidence? What assumptions are being made? What are the alternatives? What could make this fail? And what would make me change my mind? Okay. So if you think about those sort of thought processes and challenges when you're qualifying your ideas, it's going to give you better results for sure. Okay. Because you've got to be able to have the confidence to turn around to AI and say, hang on a minute. matey, that's no good. You need to think about this in a different way. Okay, so don't defer to AI as the living genius that it is. It's there for you to control and direct and point and poke and probe at problems. Okay, that's so just by using the right language at the right time. Okay, so enough theory about that. Let's try and have a look at this in practice. Okay, what I want to do is to take an idea, and I'm happy for it to come from the audience if anyone's brave enough to have an idea that they want me to put through the mill. Okay, just to show you the process. Okay, what I'd do is, if someone's willing to step up, we'd do it in the traditional way, just in a straightforward chat, and see what AI brings out as a sort of first shot. Okay, and then we're going to use some different language around probing and qualifying that idea and ripping it apart and putting it back together even better. Okay. Um, So let's see if we've got some extra ideas coming in. Okay, just see if there's another couple of questions in here. Uh, Rory says it's a bit of a maze trying to work out the best way to use AI and which are the best prompts. I'm paying for ChatGPT and Gemini at the moment to try and hedge my bets, but I hear Perplexity is good for specifics. Okay, Perplexity is the Perplexity site is built around a lot of sort of scientific data. It's really good for deep research and accurate data searches. Okay. But they used to be able to give you a couple of deep research runs for free, but they've now sort of closed that gap. So you can only do deep research on Perplexity if you've got a paid account. Um, ChatGPT, I'll give you my honest opinion of where they are at the moment. ChatGPT is a little bit flat, hasn't really moved forward. It's still pretty good for images and chucking things around like that. But I find that the way that it writes with lots of sort of bullet points and stuff like that is really annoying. It's not as flowing. Um, Basically, everybody that I know who is sort of serious about AI is using Claude. Claude has overtaken ChatGPT now as the biggest grossing chatbot. I think they're approaching a something like a $900 valuation. In terms of user base, they've gone up, oh God, so many times this year. Their predicted revenue at the start of the year, annual revenue was 10 billion dollars, and now in a space of a few months, that figure's been revised to $50 billion. So it's increased fivefold their income in the last 3 or 4 months. It's crazy, but it is really good. The quality of answers you get out of it, the fact that you've got Claude Co-work and Claude Desktop, so you can actually use sort of more sort of Claude agents. People are using it to build stuff, code, and make money. It's very, very practical and has lots of connectors as well, so you can connect it into other software. So I actually spend probably about 90% of my time now on Claude. I barely use Gemini, although it is again, it's still pretty good at video. Okay, video and images, because ChatGPT don't do video anymore. They got rid of Sora, and Claude doesn't really muck around with video in itself. Okay, so Gemini and Google Flow and everything like that is still really good for video. Okay, I must admit I've got £20 a month subscriptions to each of the three of them. But yeah, at the moment, Claude is definitely the weapon of choice. Okay. They've just released a new model, Claude 4.8, okay, which has actually um, got a thinking option in it. You can change the effort, but you really don't want to go up to these because with Claude, they've got so many people using it. They give you an allowance, a weekly allowance of how much compute time you can use. And also they give you a 5 hour window of usage. So if I actually look what I've been doing today in my settings, okay, I've I've actually been really good. I've just kind of like organized it so that my allowance reset just before the webinar because it was approaching its max allowance. Okay, but you get a pretty decent amount of data in it. But if you're doing very intensive work, you can lose your allowance and you have to stop or pay for some extra allowance. Okay, so these new models, Claude 4.8, you really don't want to use these deeper effort thinking too much because it will really burn through your allowance very quickly. Okay, so I'm just going to set it on low. Most of the time, I'm actually still working on this older model, Sonnet 4.6, as a very cost efficient and good way of producing content. Okay, so yeah, Claude is definitely the one that I would recommend at the moment. No affiliate links, I'm afraid, um, but it is really good. Okay, so let's have a look at some ideas that have come through. Um, Sean says, where do you get access to the 39 video recordings you mentioned on YouTube? Okay, well, we should probably drop in here the YouTube link. Why not? Just while we get that one out of the way, I'll just drop it into the chat. It's just go onto YouTube and search Ultimate Business System. Okay. And you've got all the um, videos that we've done back to number one. There we are, 9 months ago. 9 months of free training. There we are. Okay. And then I edit the videos and pop them onto YouTube. What, probably I think Friday lunchtime I set them to go live. So if you like and subscribe there, then you will get the notification when I drop a new video. Okay. Okay, I'll get to some ideas in a moment. Rory says, yeah, Claude, thanks, good to know. Absolutely go for Claude. Peter agrees that Claude is much better. For Vesna says, I feel that Claude doesn't work so well in the French language. Does anyone have the same experience? Je m'excuse, mais non. I don't work very well in the French language, I'm afraid. Um, I suspect, yeah, you're probably right then. If you're going into the French language, do you use Mistral, Vesna? Do you do the sort of native French AI, or do you find that things like Gemini have good language skills in there? I mean, Claude is unapologetic that it's focusing on business side of stuff and building and coding. So I don't know. It's interesting to see what you said about it in French. We'll see if anyone else has any feelings about that. Okay, and Carl says he's been looking at pivoting away from telecoms consultancy, especially for the PSTN switch off scheduled for January 2027. Um, After which there may not be the demand unless customers find real problems due to lack of planning. AI says, no, my moat is deep in this subject, so push that out more into the critical national infrastructure. Okay, yeah, Carl, you've got an interesting background, that is for sure. and I know I've reached out to speak to you about a different project that is the sort of next level way of working through this process, which I think I teased you previously. We called mission control, where basically I'm able to go through this process um, expertly with some of the prompt personas that I've got that are orchestrated to deal with this sort of situation, all inside one conversation and one project folder. So Carl, yeah, it'd be definitely one we should have a chat about with that one. Okay, and there we are. Yeah, mission control looks very interesting. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It'll be coming to the AI Insiders Club in hopefully within the next month. I'm just finishing off some more tweaks and changes to it and getting some more beta testers involved with it. And it will be really good. But I kind of wanted to, sorry, I'm drifting away from our core subject. Okay, but this mission controls process that I've designed is going to do a lot of this process for you natively. Okay, but I think it's really important that we understand the process that we can apply our critical minds to any particular problem. Okay, so let's have a look at some ideas. Okay. Max says, for school, I'm working on something. I want a budget sportswear company to get closer to the customer. How can I use AI and the right prompts to get a better idea about getting close to the customer? And which AI tool would you recommend? Okay. Okay, let's break that down as an idea, Max. Let's see what we can do. So let's just take that and see if we can develop an idea based around that. Let's just go in Claude. Okay. Okay, let's see what Claude makes of that, shall we? If you're happy for me to do that, Max. Okay. And see what we can do. Okay. But I'm not going to be back talking about using AI and the right prompts. Okay. Let's just say um, I need to get a better idea about uh, how I can get closer to the customer. Can you explain, Max, a little bit more about what you mean about getting closer um, to the customer? Okay, let's just do it as that. Da, da, da. Just give me a little bit more context. I'm not going to use it quite yet. Okay, don't want to talk about it at all. Okay, let's see if we'll give it that very simple instruction. Okay, and see what it can do to break this down. Okay, so Claude is really good. It says it's starting to go now, I don't quite have enough information here. Okay, so which aspect of customer closeness are you focusing on? Okay, Max, give us the answers. Okay, either one, two, three, or four. Okay, are you trying to understand who they are, their personas, their pain points, or two, reaching them better through channels or messaging? Reaching them better. Okay, yeah, Max has just said. Okay. And now it wants to know what's your starting point, Max? Okay. Are you early stage or a little customer data yet? Or have you got some customers but limited insight, or established base and want to go deeper? Okay. He says number three. Okay. Right. So you notice the way Claude does that those sort of intake questions. I think it's really useful sometimes. It just does those sort of quick general knowledge or general multi-choice questions, which is a really good way of it of being able to sort of filter down these ideas. Okay, so let's have a look at what we've given it with this vague It is a pretty vague instruction, but that's great. I wanted it to be deliberately vague. Okay, so essentially we've given it a bit of knowledge that we want a budget sportswear company um, to get close to the customer. Okay, but we need to reach them better, and you've already got an established base. Okay, right. So what it's able to establish from that is only one or two facts. Okay, so you've got traction, and the goal is sharpening how you reach and communicate with people who are already buying from you. Okay, that's Claude just showing it's a little bit of extra um, knowledge and power and polish. I think it's really good at that. Okay, so Claude is suggesting that you start off by mining what you already have. Okay, your existing customers, your richest signal you're ignoring. Look at their purchase patterns. Yeah, which is so if you've got a CRM system, segment by behavior. Yeah, that's good. Good advice. Um, Own channels over rented ones. Okay, budget brands are often over reliant on paid social, which is expensive. Um, not building an email list, aggressively start now. It's the highest return on investment you can get. Okay. Um, Messaging that reflects their reality. Budget sportswear customers aren't aspirational in the premium sense. They want performance and value without apology. Okay. That's good understanding. Community is a channel, budget brands that win it by do so, but with a building a sense of belonging. So a Facebook group, a WhatsApp community, a Strava club. Start building that loyalty. Post-purchase as a growth lever. Most brands go quiet after a sale. And localize and personalize where possible. Okay. Now, AI at this point, or Claude at this point, says, right, I need to get a bit more information, Max. Okay. Um, what channels are you currently using? And is there a particular bottleneck, acquisition, retention, or re-engagement, that would let me get more specific? Okay, so this is what we're starting to see just with that first response is how AI is general across all the chatbots is addressing the way that it gives responses and develop plans for people to try to avoid that great idea. It's what it's called sycophancy, okay, where AI it validates what you've the idea you've come up with without any particular evidence. Okay, so Claude knows that this is a bit of a problem. The Anthropic company have done a lot of work on reducing sycophancy. And their latest model, the 4.8 model, they've specifically built it so that it is more honest with you. Okay, so it's a bit trickier to do a test on this inside Claude, which is why I've used one of the slightly older models. Okay, because it's now built not to do, but that's a great idea. Okay, so AI is responding to this as an issue. Okay, Max has come back and says, because of big competitors, it's hard for a budget sportswear company to get the same recognition as Nike as or Adidas. Okay, that's fair enough, isn't it? Um, okay, so let's just give it that little bit of context. Okay, and Max now just says I'm thinking about using Instagram, um, where I can make a campaign about making people feel they are one with the brand. Now I want AI to help me with the right campaign. Okay. Um, okay, but you've you said there that you want AI to help me to make the right campaign. Okay, but what you haven't done at this point, which um, is we haven't validated that this is the right way to approach the problem. Okay, so you said you're thinking about Instagram and social media where I can make a campaign about making the people feel they're at one with the brand. but you need to quantify that and validate it to find out if that is the best use of your time right now. Okay. So let's just take that out for a moment and let Claude chew on that one. Okay. Okay, so Claude thinks that that's a smart instinct, and it's actually where the budget brands can win because Nike and Adidas have a problem. You don't. They're too big to feel personal. Okay, how to think about it strategically. Da, da, da. Your goal isn't to outspend Nike; it's to outrelate them. Okay, your customers should feel seen by your brand in a way that a £200 hoodie brand never could. Okay, it says Instagram is a good platform for it. Um, Right, then it's going to ask you questions about your Instagram presence. So it's steadily Claude is interviewing you to try and grab a little bit more data. Okay, so if we go back to the slides on that one, we'll come back to that, Max. Thank you. Um, Stay online because we might need to ask you more. Okay. Um, First part of the process is trying to get evidence. Okay, so yeah, if I was asking if I should launch a membership site instead of online courses, okay, I don't want that generic AI response. I want to know what evidence would support the idea of launching a membership site in my current market for my current audience. Okay, what we want to try and trigger AI to do is to go off and search for data. Okay, to go online and find some real world idea information about your project or and research and deep research is super useful to do that. Okay, so if we just pop back to your Claude chat acts, okay, um, let's just ignore its question. Okay, I'm not going to tell it about Instagram presence at the moment. Um, what online research will we um, need to do to get more information on this to make a better decision? Okay, chuck it back at the model. Okay, what else do we need to know first? Okay, because the more information we can chuck into um, our problem, the more information or context information the AI has to infuse and to toss up and to qualify for its best plan. Okay, because all these models they're trained up to a certain date. I think Claude is trained up to January at the moment. Gemini always claims that it's sort of live data because it's got all the Google ecosystem to work from. Okay. Um, all right. So let's just have a look to see what Claude has said. Right. So he wants a competitor's social audit. Okay. Research the early competitors in your market, Gymshark, Decathlon, Champion, how they built their Instagram presences. Okay, who's actually engaging with sportswear content, not who you assume is. Okay, hashtags, sentiment and trend research, your own customer data. All right. Um, Notice that this model has kind of said, right, these are all the things that you should be searching. It hasn't actually offered to go off and do it itself yet, which is what you'd like it to do. Okay. Uh, so let's just force it how to do that. Okay. Let's just see if this will work. Uh, can you go off and do that research yourself and then come back and report what you found? much easier. Okay. Um, at this sort of step inside, here we are in here now. It's looking up Gymsharp. It's looking up Reddit sentiment. It's looking up Instagram. Okay. And just by forcing it to go off and do that search, it's going to give you a whole load of better context for the rest of the conversation. Yeah. So one simple tip makes a big difference. Okay. Sometimes you can ask AI to say, "Hey, write me some deep research prompts." Okay, so if you've got some paid AI, or if you've got a free Gemini account, I think they let you do sort of 3 or 4 deep research runs every month. Make sure that those count with your research, okay? And then you get a big long document that you can then chuck back into the context of this conversation. Okay, is everyone familiar with deep research? I'm sure there's probably some people who haven't used it. Let me just, I was doing quite a few deep research runs the other day. Actually, let me just refresh this. Okay, I was finding out some information for Simon about some um, music groups up in Birmingham. Okay, and I created this deep research prompts. And I used AI to write it for me. And I wanted to go off and find amateur orchestras, choirs, chamber ensembles within 50 miles of Birmingham, and then put them into a form for me. Okay? And it went off and it researched quite a few websites, okay, and then builds this report for me. Probably took about 8 or 9 minutes to run and to produce the research. Okay, but then I get this big, long, focused report with the contact data that I wanted, and then a list of all the websites that it searched inside for that report. And so when I'm doing a big project, I would just sort of download that document and put it back into whatever chat I was focusing on. Okay, as context information. Okay, so those deep researches are really cool, and you just kick them off by putting in your request here and coming down to deep research. And you can add some extra web links or files to that deep research and send it away. Okay. Um, so yeah, deep research is killer. If you've got availability to those deep research runs, make sure you use them really strategically. Okay. Um, so this particular Claude has gone away and just done online research, which is good, and it's got the links through to where what pages it got it from. Okay, which is really useful. Um, Micro inference opportunity, data is compelling. All right, so it then takes that knowledge and puts it back into our problem. Okay, what we're trying to solve. Okay, so the research confirms your instinct is well founded. Here's the distilled strategic picture. Do build a UGC campaign with a strong branded hashtag and seed product to 20 or 30 micro nano creators. Da, 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 da. Don't try to replicate Nike's visual aesthetic or spend on celebrity endorsement. Your relationship is advantage relatability, etc. And quality sportswear that doesn't exclude you is generally unclaimed at the budget end. Okay. Now, just with that bit of extra data that we've forced, um, Claude now feels confident saying, well, can we put that into a campaign brief with a name and hashtag concept, creator outreach strategy, and content calendar outline? Okay, that would be really cool. Okay. But Okay, what is missing from this chat so far? Okay, that's what I'd like to know. Okay, we're starting to get a little bit of evidence together and signals about this plan of um, of building, of reaching our customers. Okay, um, but there's a whole lot of assumptions that Claude has made there. Okay, that we haven't actually qualified. Okay, so key point. Every idea is built on hidden assumptions, and the more assumptions you uncover, the fewer surprises you get. Okay, so you've got to knock back the AI and say, hang on a minute. Okay, before we go any further, um, let's just do this. Okay, and just say, let's pause for a moment. And can you just tell me what assumptions you've made so far in this conversation, and what we need to address to get a better plan together? Uh, sorry, I meant to say what assumptions we need to address. Okay, so if you ask AI, hang on a minute, what have you assumed here? That would give you a better direction for the chat. Okay, so he's assumed that you're selling direct to consumer, probably online, but he doesn't actually know if you sell through retail marketplaces like Amazon or your own site or your mix. It's assumed that you're a UK-based brand, um, and partly from a location, but hasn't actually confirmed it. He hasn't assumed that budget. He's assumed that budget means generally low price point, not just cheaper than premium, because they're two different positions. Assume that you have an existing product range and that you have at least some customers already based on your answer earlier. But I don't know how many there are or how engaged there are. So there's some big things that it's assumed. It's assumed about your audience. They're broad, have a broad everyday athlete, um, and assume they're 18 to 40. Da da da. So there's a ton of assumptions in here that if we hadn't asked, we could feed in inadvertently into our replies. Okay. So that simple question of trying to push back and going, hang on a minute, what do we need to address? Okay. So it's now recognized that and said, right, okay, if you answer all these questions, I'm going to have killed quite a few of those assumptions. Okay. So a really simple bit of language that makes a big difference throughout the rest of the chat. Okay, of challenging assumptions. Cool. Any questions on that? Let me challenge the assumption that you understand where we've got to so far. So we've asked for more evidence. We've challenged assumptions so far. Okay. Nick says, is deep research only in Gemini? No, deep research is in Gemini. It's in ChatGPT as well. And you can get it in Claude as well. And there's other places you can get sort of free runs of it as well. Okay, pretty much every AI chatbot has some form of deep research. Okay, but they do limit you or restrict you because it's quite intensive in terms of computing power. Okay. All right, cool. Everyone's with me. Okay. The next challenge we have to put to AI, okay, is apart from my idea or apart from this idea that we're working on, what other things should be thinking about? Yeah. What are the alternatives? Okay, because I've just come up with sort of one idea, yeah, or Max has said, look, I'm thinking about using Instagram and social media so that we can find out more about our consumers, our customers. But what are the other ways we could do that? Yeah. Um, AI hasn't challenged us to say, hang on a minute. Actually, that's one idea, but here's five or six other ideas that you should be thinking of as well. Okay. Um, so alternatives expand your thinking and often reveal a better path you hadn't considered. Okay. More options equals more control and better choices, better results. And that's what we're about, isn't it? It's about getting better results. Okay. So let's just chuck that back to Claude. Okay. Let's go. Your assumptions were correct. Were correct for now. Well done. Let me validate Claude back again. Um, okay. And then before we go on, instead of Instagram or other social channels, um, we'll go. Are there other options? Uh, are there better options to get to know about our customers? Okay. Chuck it off for some blue sky thinking. Okay. Um, says, right, before committing to a channel, here are the most valuable alternatives. Okay. Customer interviews. Right. Have you ever sat down and talked to some of your customers or done a follow-up telephone call to try and find out what they think about the brand? If you're a budget brand, you could offer people free clothing or a discount voucher or something like that to try and find out face to face or on a Zoom call of what they think about your brand. Okay, make them sort of almost like brand ambassadors in a way to try and help you out. Post-purchase surveys. Okay, are you getting reports back from your clients, Max? Are they getting asking to do reviews for you or to fill out a form to give you a little bit more interesting information to help you? Um, your own sales and returns data. What's selling repeatedly to the same people? What gets returned and why? Why do people buy together? This data tells you who your real customer is versus who you think it is without anyone having to tell you anything. Okay, so your own data can reveal some of that. Community spaces, observational research. Okay, you should be reading and searching for your budget brand and seeing where it's getting noticed. Email list behavior, what subject lines get opened, what links are clicked, a physical local pop-up or local event. Okay, so there's other ways that you could be progressing that rather than going, okay, yeah, everyone else is doing Instagram, I should be doing it too. Okay, but other things to think about. But if we hadn't asked AI, okay, it wouldn't necessarily have dropped all these extra good ideas in. And there might only be one there that you go, hang on a minute, yeah, that's a good one. Okay, let's pop that in the mix and then see where we get to it. Okay. So yeah, um, challenging those assumptions and then finding out whether there's better options that you can put into the mix. Okay. After that, we challenge AI of saying, okay, you've said this is a potentially great decision. Okay, but what is going to make it fail? What could make it fail? Right? We want AI to delve into it and see the bit down here, be brutally honest. Okay, you can actually tell AI to be honest, to rip it apart, to look for problems, to you know um, to play through what might cause this to fail. Okay, and it will think of lots of scenarios and lots of ideas, and it's going to help you plug those gaps because you might be able to then push back and go, no, I've got that one nailed, I've got that one nailed, but those two, God, I know I hadn't thought of. Yeah, because there's no point go plowing into a big a build or a project, okay, and then suddenly getting to a point where it's like, oh, oh, I wish someone would told me this. Yeah. Okay. So what could make this fail? It's a really um, simple instruction. Okay. Let's just try it out. Okay. Um, yeah, yeah. Let's just do that. That's all good. Okay. Tell me honestly, what is what's most likely to make my brand fail? Be brutal with me. Let's just use that language. Yeah. And see what that does. Okay, there are certain sort of words that you can use to force AI or encourage AI to behave differently. Okay, because it's native programming, its native setup is to be helpful, to be nice, to be supportive. Yeah, but in order to break free of that little bit of programming default or instruction default, things like brutal and or brutal honesty help it overcome that desire to be nice. Okay. There's another one, another wording that works really well, and that's snarky. For some reason, okay, if you're allowing AI to be a bit sort of sardonic and in your face, and a bit of pushback, yeah, it can allow it to think in more constructive ways. Okay. So here we go. Here's your most likely failure points in order of probability. You're invisible and you stay invisible. Um, Basically, you'll never get enough traction to matter or to catch up anywhere near with Nike or Adidas. Okay. If you're just cheaper, you don't register. You can then try to compete on price and it destroys you. Yeah. There will always be someone cheaper. So you've got to know where you stand. Or three, you confuse activity with traction. Um, so yeah, I've been really busy posting all these stuff, but if there isn't a strategy behind it, then it's not really going to be as successful. Okay, you never actually talk to your customers. You build the brand on assumptions. Yours, mine, the research you pulled, none of it maps onto what people really actually want. You run out of money before you get to the proof. Yeah, big challenge. Inconsistency, you stop showing up. You build an audience, but not a business. So you build an audience of like-minded people who don't want to buy anything off you. Uh, yeah. Or your product just isn't good enough for that audience. So yeah, there's lots of things there. When you tell it to be brutal and honest with you of what might cause something to fail, it can push AI into that different mindset to rip you apart. Okay. Roger said, "Hi Roger, what happens if you ask Claude directly to play the role of a ruthless devil's advocate and come up with all the ways it can fail and what I need to do to prevent it?" Yep, that works beautifully. And so, actually, in the mission control software or process that um, I have an orchestrated set of AI personas that would look at this problem and go. Okay, right. I need to first do some online research to find out more about it, or I need to ask you more about it first and then go away and do some research. So there's a prompt called Scout that goes off and builds that research and goes off and do it, and then he comes back and he hands over to a business analyst called Hormozy, who will be hard nosed and look at things really critically. Okay, and then it will send it off to a devil's advocate prompt that I have, that looks at all the ways that it can fail and what survives criticism, and what stands up. Okay, and what you need to address. Okay, so my system actually does all this for you in a flow. Okay, and calls on the personas at the right time. It's got money prompts in there that can organize your finances, and see whether it's actually a viable way of doing stuff. Whether it's going to be economically viable for you to invest in Instagram. What's your return going to be? Okay, because you've got the idea about building an Instagram to get customers, but you haven't actually defined what the goal of that campaign is. Okay, is it to build an online presence? Is it to make more sales? Is it so that you can improve the range of your brand and break into different areas or different segments of the market? Is it just purely to sell more stuff? Or to grow your margins or whatever. So you've got to factor that in to your plan at the beginning. Okay, so that's why we work with AI to ask all these questions to refine, 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 refine. Okay, so what could make it fail? Test it, challenge it, strengthen it. And then I think we're almost on the final questions. Okay, what would change my mind? Okay, what evidence or information would convince me not to do this? Okay, so you can try and protect yourself from confirmation bias. Okay, um, and yeah, the goal is not to be right. The goal is to make the best decision you can with the evidence you have. So just saying, what would convince me not to do this, okay, is a really powerful thing to throw back at the AI. Okay, let's just check it. Okay, be brutal. All right. If I was to go ahead with this, what is the biggest reason that would stop me from doing this? Why should I actually do it? Okay. Have a think about it. Okay. I need to put in a bit about evidence and information. Okay. Let's just add to that. What extra evidence or information would be the real kicker, and stop this project completely in its tracks? Okay. Um, so look, the biggest reason that would stop you personally doing this is you. Most business projects like this don't fail because the idea was wrong. They fail because the founder doesn't have the sustained obsession required to push through the long, ugly middle. Okay. So the question you need to answer honestly is why this, why you, why now? So if you're not fully behind it, then what's the point? Okay. Why should you actually do it? It's pivoted and the genuine case for going ahead. The budget sportswear market is structurally underserved emotionally, and the big brands talk down to budget customers and make them feel like they're buying the consolation prize. Da, da, da. Um, the brand that's really good in the UK about dealing with their customers and making them feel special, even in the budget end of stuff, I think is Aldi, the Aldi supermarket. Their social media team is genius. They live on the edge, for sure. Um, and they're not afraid who they of which their competitors they mug off or upset. And it's the type of campaign that their customer base really responds to. Um, and it's, from, not trying to um, do sort of simple advertising around products all the time. They're having a laugh, poking fun, um, doing silly little quips and stuff, and it's really building their profile. It's something. It becomes a business that people can um, relate to. It's like meeting your mate down the pub. In fact, Aldi are opening a pub, aren't they? They're opening a pub in Ireland, in Northern Ireland, next to their store because it's the only way that they could get a license for to sell alcohol in that store. So they're opening an Aldi pub next door. I think they're calling it the Middle Ale. Um, but yeah, genius. All right. Anyway, sorry, back to your sportswear brand. Okay. So if there is a genuine case, you should do it. Um, the evidence that would kill this project completely, that no real differential exists. If you do the customer interviews and nobody can articulate why they choose you over just buying from Amazon, then you don't have a brand. Yeah. The unit economics don't work. If your cost of goods plus fulfillment plus returns plus customer acquisition costs leave you with margins under 40%, then the business model is broken before you start. Customer interviews reveal indifference. You can't fund the runway. You personally aren't the right person to build it. Yeah. That's brutal enough, isn't it? It's not you, it should be someone else doing it. Okay. Um, but again, a really simple question to ask, okay, of what evidence is there that this could go wrong before it even starts? Okay. What would change my mind about doing this? And if we run through that whole process of pushing back, okay, and we haven't used clever words, we haven't used prompts as such, we've just done the right pushback at the right time to get a potentially better decision. Now, we haven't run through Max's scenario fully because, I haven't got the information about the brand and the sales figures and the environment they operate in and their product range and their customer base and all that sort of stuff. All that juicy bits of information would allow Claude to take that and do something even better. Okay. But we'd still run it through, and Max can do it later, can't you? You can run through that idea and push it to say, right, what evidence do we need? Okay. Find out what assumptions that both you and I are making in this process, which what do we need to challenge? What are the alternatives? What are the risks and failures? Yeah. And what would change my mind? Yeah. And if you run through that process a few times, then you will refine, and you'll get much better, much clearer idea of direction of where you're going to. Um, I I think earlier on in the call, I think Peter was mentioning about race courses, race horses. Yeah, my idea is to get more companies owning race horses and then charge the company a management fee for buying the horse, arranging the trainer, admin yard bidders, and race day organisation. So, Peter, that idea is a classic one to put through this process, okay, to figure out, is it a good idea? What's the evidence to support it? What assumptions are you making in that plan? What are the alternatives? How could we improve that plan? What directions could we go off in? And what the risk and failures are. Okay? If you put that horse racing plan through that process, and I know you've been doing it quite a few years, okay, very committed to it, okay, but chuck it through this validation process to see where it takes you and what other ideas it will bring up for you. I think you'll be really surprised. Okay. Because as much as anything, you're not just challenging AI, you're challenging yourself. You're challenging your beliefs about your project or your idea. Okay. Because if you believe that your idea is absolute genius, then you might be you might be the problem. Okay. You've probably seen Dragon's Den, where people go in with that idea that they've been working on for 15 years and mortgaged their houses three times over, invested all of grandma's money because it's definitely going to be a winner. And then one of the dragons just spots one simple flaw in their product that says, no, this isn't going to work. Um, I'm not going to invest. Okay, they've wasted 15 years of their life and all their money because they didn't stop and do that one bit of validation. Okay, one bit of check to say, will this actually work? Okay, so that's what AI is great. You can do this in 20 minutes, half an hour, run any idea through it. Okay, and once you firm up that idea, that's when you can start going for, right, okay, how do we build this? What information do I need? What are my sales pages? What are my products going to be? Yeah, because you've really stress tested and firmed up the idea to begin with, just with those good question techniques. Okay. Oh, look, there we are. The future of AI isn't better prompts. Well, I think I must admit, I built this using AI. Okay. And I said, yeah, just we ran through the whole structure of this show. And I was saying, just, what's coming for the next slide? Right. Build it, build it, build it. Okay. The future of AI isn't better prompts. Okay. Is that right? I think the it's got a certain amount of validation. Okay, but it's about using AI in the right way. I'm being hesitant about this because my mission control system is based around having prompt personas that are skilled at various elements of this process and other processes. Yeah. So prompting is really useful, okay, to focus AI's mind, but it's actually um, the quality of the language and how you orchestrate and how you direct that conversation that with Max's problem. Okay, his question. We've just dropped in the right sort of language at the right time to poke AI to get better answers. Okay. So have a think about this. Okay. Start with the real question. Find the facts that matter. Test the assumptions and spot the patterns. Identify risks and blind spots. Choose the best option, then move forward. Okay. Better questions, better decisions, better results. Excellent. I think that's pretty much the last slide. That's good. Okay, that's good because it's 2:15. Lovely. Okay. If I had to say one thing to remember, okay, remember AI when using AI. If it agrees with you, that doesn't mean it's validated you. Don't mistake evidence, or sorry, evidence is more important than enthusiasm, and better questions will give you better decisions. Okay. Nick says, is there an acronym to remember those points? I don't know. It says Peach Star. If you can make something out of that, um, I'm sure we can do that. Okay, let's just do that. Make an acronym. Um, I'm sorry, I'm doing this off screen, aren't I? Peacda. Pedant, Nick says. Might be good if we change one or two letters. Okay. Um, okay. No, AI hasn't nailed that. I'm not asking the right question, but hey, you can make something up, or you can just stick it on a post-it note next to your computer. That'll do. Good, good, good. Yeah, I mean, AI is lovely. And what we want people to do is not be put off by previous experiences with that. That's a great idea. Okay, because AI is getting better at qualifying and pushing back, but the better we are at dealing with that and pushing it in better directions, the better building we're going to do, better decisions we're going to make. Okay, you should be in front of your AI for at least an hour a day, I'm sure, asking it stuff. I'm probably in front of it for about 8 or 9 hours a day at the minute. And I just randomly think, oh, what about this problem? And I'm on my phone, I'm going, oh, should I put £10,000 into a cash ISA, or should I use it to pay down my mortgage? And it gives me the answer. Okay. But that's also with the mission stuff that I use as well. Okay. So I'm going to close it there for this session. What I haven't done is I haven't gone more into mission control because I'm just showing you the theory behind it. Okay. And when we get to the point of launching mission control into the AI Insiders Club, you will have the opportunity to sign up. Um, and hopefully it'll be there. But the more and more I use it, the value of it is going up because it's doing some amazing stuff. And everyone I've given it to test it so far has just gone, wow, it's game changing for them. So yeah, I'm just refining it, but we need to get it out there to into the hands of people. All right, cool. Right. Any other questions? I'm here if you need. Okay. Otherwise, I will just stay on for a moment and chat behind the scenes. But otherwise, thank you very much for joining the surgery. And I will, one of us, I can't remember who's here next week, but I'm sure it's going to be something really interesting to move forward your business and to help with use of the ultimate business system. Because that's what we want people to do, to build stuff, to make stuff, and build an income. Um, that's cool. Thank you very much indeed, everybody. We will catch you next time.